All right, everybody, thank you for coming to our last webinar of the fall series. Today, we're going to be chatting about social engagement. So we have a current student, a graduate, as well as a peer mentor on with us to share their experiences in those roles. Before we get going too far, can I just get a thumbs up? Is my screen being shared? Are we good? Okay, awesome. All right, so let's get rolling. So this is the IN staff. We're just a small but mighty team. My name is Elise Kramer. I'm our program coordinator. We love hearing from students and families and educators and kind of everybody. So feel free to jot down my contact information, reach out. I'm happy to chat with anyone about anything at all regarding social engagement or anything else in addition to that. So just kind of to get us rolling, I'm going to introduce what IN is and what we do. So we are a nonprofit. We have four main focuses. So those are on the right side there. So for education, we work with special education teachers and other school district personnel to kind of figure out how to best prepare students for inclusive higher education. In terms of outreach, we try to reach as many families and students across the state as we can to let them know that inclusive higher education is an option. For expansion, we work to build programs at as many schools across the state as possible, and I'll talk about that in a few slides here. And then for outcomes, we want to make sure that our students have good, meaningful outcomes after these programs, that they are, doing awesome things with their lives, and so we report on that on a yearly basis. And so all that is just to kind of say, IN as the nonprofit, we don't do any direct services on campus. Those are the things that these lovely panelists are going to chat about. And we're more of kind of like an overseeing body. We don't run any of the programs specifically. So that's just kind of an FYI there. So here are our webinar objectives. This is what we'll be chatting about today. So the first one is just to briefly go over what the different options are for students with intellectual disabilities who want to go to college in Colorado. The next one, we're just going to go over some really common, more general ways that inclusive higher education will help support social engagement. And then lastly, we're going to hear from our panelists to share about the specific ways that inclusive higher education supported their social engagement, or in our peer mentor's case, in the way that she helps to do the support. So with that, we are going to meet the panelists. I want us to see their lovely faces. So panelists, I'm going to put the questions up on the screen, and then I'm going to unshare just so that your faces are bigger, and then I'll share again. So if you need me to repeat the questions at any time, let me know, because they will not be on the screen for too long. So just briefly share with us your name, your school, and then your favorite part about going to college, and or your favorite part about being an inclusive higher education student. Are we good on that? Can I stop my share?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so let's have Caitlin. Why don't you go first? Your name, your school, your favorite part of college.
My name is Caitlin Berman. My school is UCCS, Office of Inclusive Services Program. I am a graduate. My favorite part about going to college / being a part of an inclusive higher education, going to all of the social events, and getting to know everyone.
Wonderful. Thanks, Caitlin.
Sure.
All right, next, let's run to Maggie.
My name is Maggie Jordan. I go to UNC. The program is called Goal, and they're just like UCCS but in Greeley. And my favorite part about going to college is exploring my opportunities and going to classes that I actually would really like to do.
Awesome. And then Hannah.
Hi, my name's Hannah. I go to UCCS and I'm a peer mentor for the Office of Inclusive Services. My favorite part of being a part of inclusive higher education is getting to celebrate when we meet milestones or when we achieve goals alongside everyone that I work with.
That's awesome. Very special answer. Thanks, Hannah. All right, let's get my screen share back going. We see it, are we good?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So I'm going to give a very brief rundown now of what inclusive higher education is and then what our programs are here in the state of Colorado. So just very briefly, I'm not going to go through this whole slide, just kind of an FYI. So inclusive higher education offers an alternative admissions pathway for students with intellectual disabilities or other students who might not qualify for a traditional college entrance pathway. It is fully inclusive, it's fully normative, so this is not a segregated special education class on a college campus. Students are taking the same classes with their peers on campus with the same professors and all that kinds of fun stuff. But really the cool part about that is they get to take courses that align with their specific career goal. So we're not looking at as many of the kind of traditional gen ed prerequisites and things like that. It's much more tailored to a student's interests and to what they want to do after college, which is really exciting. Although traditional students can access only accommodations, students in inclusive higher education also have access to modifications, which means that they use the same curriculum, but their assignments to reach the standards of the curriculum are a little bit different and they're more accessible for students' individual needs. But because the coursework is modified, they receive a certificate credential instead of a traditional degree. However, that certificate is weighty, it is meaningful. It shows that students have sat through classes, they are graded on the learning that they have done, they get an actual transcript. They're not auditing classes, which is the model in some states. They are true students in their school classes and in their school communities, and they have sort of this really weighty credential to show everything that they've gotten out of it, which is really exciting. All along the way, students get to participate in career readiness, in independent living, all kinds of fun stuff. And specifically, they have staff as well as peer mentors to support them in the 4 main domains. So what those 4 domains are, they're academics, independence, career, and then what we will be chatting about today is the social development aspect of college. Our webinars this semester have all focused on the different aspects of these 4 pillars of inclusive higher education. So if you want to know more about academics, career, or independence, you can view our website and see those other webinars there. Again, today we're going to be focusing on the most fun part, I think, on the social aspect.
Yeah.
And Caitlin agrees. All right, so I'm going to give a rundown of what our programs are. So the first one is Elevate at Arapahoe Community College. That is in Littleton, Colorado. And whoops, too soon. As a commuter campus, that does not offer on-campus living for any student, and it is roughly a 3-year program for most students. Then we have Caitlin and Hannah representing the Office of Inclusive Services at UCCS. So that is in Colorado Springs. They do have the option for on-campus living. It's not required, but it is available for students who want it. And they have the option to live in on-campus apartments. That is roughly a 4-year program. And then UNC, so that's Maggie's program, the Gold program in Greeley. They also have on-campus living in dorms, and that's also a 4-year program. And then our newest addition is the Regis Global Inclusive program that is in Denver. And they do also have on-campus living. Right now, they have a 1-year track and a 2-year track. In the next few years, as the program kind of gets more off its feet, they will create longer tracks that are more along the lines of the other programs there. But for now, it's a little bit shorter. And if I didn't already say, they do have on-campus living. And the really cool thing about all 4 of these programs is they are all what's called CTP certified. Really what that means for families who are interested in these programs is that with that CTP designation, these schools, or pardon me, these students are eligible for federal financial aid. We do have a financial webinar that we did earlier this semester as well. That's also on our website. So if you have questions on that, I would definitely view that webinar. And then the other thing that I already mentioned is all of these students receive that comprehensive higher education certificate. So again, what that means is the outcome is meaningful, it is weighty, and it really is something that students are very proud to have, and we are very proud of our students for getting this as well. And then we're really excited to announce that in the fall, in August, CSU is launching a program. So that is called the Rams Scholars Program. And that is in Fort Collins. They are going to be more experiential learning focused. So a lot more agriculture, hands-on, things like that, at least for the first few years. And then that program will eventually have on-campus living, probably not for the first few years, just while they're getting kind of the rest of the program off the ground, but they will eventually, which is exciting. And then also in August, MSU Denver is opening a program that's in downtown Denver. They don't have on-campus living for any students, or really for most students, so keep that in mind as well. And both of those programs will have applications open soon on their websites, so check back soon. And then we're excited to announce that 2 more schools will be opening in the fall of 2025, or opening programs, I should say, for inclusive higher education. We don't know where they are yet. So our grant application process will launch in the first part of the second semester. So in winter of 2024, that will launch. So we're hoping that it'll be 1 rural university and 1 community college. Check back when we know more. All right. Now for the meaty part of this presentation. So we're going to chat a little bit first about some more general skills that our schools will kind of teach, and then we'll hear from our peers and our students and our peer mentor about, what that looks like more specifically. So there are some personal skill supports that our programs will work to develop. So that can include things like self-awareness, self-regulation, adapting when situations maybe are not ideal. That can also include things like schedule management, right? Getting to where you need to be on time, getting yourself out of bed, all that kinds of stuff that maybe comes with more independence. There's also some learning about professional relationship awareness. So we don't talk to our best friend the same way we talk to our boss. And why not? And what does that look like? And so that's kind of where that comes into play. And along with that is sort of some self-advocacy, as well as a communication of needs. So it's important for students to learn how to appropriately share what they need, how to advocate for themselves when they need it, and in an appropriate manner. Oftentimes our programs will also teach about relationship management or conflict management. So these are just some sort of, social things that probably all of us should learn and some of us don't. And so these are taught really directly and specifically in our inclusive higher ed programs. Also, it's sort of a given in most college situations that there's some sort of group work or some form of collaboration. And so sometimes there's a direct instruction of, what does that look like? And that could look different for every student. There is a discussion and sort of a teaching about responsible risk taking, which is something that probably, again, all college students should learn. And so that's specifically taught to most of our students as well. And then appropriate use of social media. This isn't everything that students learn. This is just kind of a quick sampling that I took from some of our program websites. So I didn't, come up with any of this on my own. This is directly from our programs themselves. But again, they're all sort of different, and every student is different, and they have different needs in terms of what social supports they need as well. So just keep that in mind. None of this is set in stone. A lot of it depends on what every student needs and requires. And then kind of with that, these are just some more general supports that students might receive on campus. And again, they vary by school. So some of our campuses have required campus life involvement. So that could look like facilitated meal groups, like, you have to go to dinner with friends every Tuesday or whatever that might look like. It could also be required attendance at clubs or organizations or different things like that. Not that you have to attend this specific club, but that you have to find a club that interests you to join. That could be one example. And then there's also the use of natural support. So people like Hannah, peer mentors. So the expectation of peer mentors can vary, but these are just some, again, expectations that I found from some of our program websites. So peer mentors might be expected to model appropriate behavior in various social situations. They might be asked to identify opportunities for connection. So they may see a poster on campus for a certain event and text their mentee, hey, this may interest you. Do you want me to go with you? Things like that. Again, that kind of goes along with accompanying students to different events, to sometimes to classes, off-campus activities, all kinds of stuff. I know Maggie has said that her peer mentors have taken her to even like Target And so they have, really kind of a wide variety of roles and supports that they might serve. And then really the overall most important thing that peer mentors do is they work to integrate students into the overall campus community, to welcome them into just, the campus culture and things like that. So with that, I want to hear from our peer mentors. So Hannah, again, same thing. I'm going to put the questions up on the screen, then I'm going to stop sharing so we can see your face, and I'll share again so we can keep rolling. So Hannah, I'm going to ask you to talk about just the different ways that you support students. They could be things that I already mentioned. They could already be things that I didn't say that you do all the time and you think is important for us to know. The other thing that I hear from parents and teachers and all kinds of people all the time is, how do the peer mentors know what they're doing? Or in other words, how are they trained? What kinds of support do the peer mentors receive to provide appropriate support to the students? So if you want to just sort of talk about that as well, that would be really awesome. You good?
Yeah, I'm happy to
Awesome.
share. So about the supports that I give, some things I wanted to highlight was, I believe the most important part of the work we do as peer mentors is to build authentic connections and relationships with the students we work with. Um, and by doing that, a lot of that means that I show up as myself, and that I also show them that it's okay to go out of your comfort zone. It's all right to be uncomfortable, and try new things, and to just really join them in the process of learning new things and exploring what campus has to offer. A lot of the work that I do during social events specifically is pay attention to the student and their comfort, and just respond to their cues that they give. Um, and of course, listen to them when they communicate their needs. Some of that means to help with regulation. So that might mean to introduce strategies that they can use, like maybe a fidget while we're waiting to get into an event. That might mean suggesting maybe putting in some headphones while we're waiting when it's loud and um, an uncomfortable environment for a moment. That might also mean teaching some breathing exercises. And some students just need a reminder that they're safe and that they're appreciated in the space they're in. I also think that there's steps that I support students in when it comes to accessing the event. So that might mean like giving reminders on what to bring to an event to be successful. So if it's cold outside, making sure that they have what they need to be comfortable. Um, or remembering to bring a water bottle and snacks. Um, and of course, these things um, evolve with practice and with the student and their individual experiences. Um, Also, just teaching them steps like how to find where we're going to access an event, um, and like how to sign up for an event, how to get into the event, how to access the restroom, things like that. And then I can go into the next question if we're ready.
Yeah, that's great.
Perfect. So for training, a new element that was added to our training this year was reviewing student goals that they wrote themselves. So for me, that was helpful as a mentor who has been here for the past couple of years to kind of just be updated. With students that I've worked with before and with what they want to accomplish this upcoming year or semester. And then for students that I don't know yet, it's just kind of like an introduction to what they want um, for their introduction to college. So that could maybe be one of their goals, for example, would be like to host an event. So I might teach them how to do a social outing form that our amazing program coordinator provides. Um, and then that might also mean like if they want to go to more dance events, we'll look for them and give directions on how to sign up. So I really enjoyed that our program director has added that to our training. And then also an important part of training is to review the mission of the OIS. So that means that we focus on meaningful inclusion and equal participation. And that we're working to connect students to the community, and that's done through respecting them and being responsive to their needs and letting them drive their goals and what they want out of this. We also always review the language that we should use when referring to students and the supports that they receive and the importance of that. And we also acknowledge some barriers on campus that we might face. So that might mean with social events, if you're going to go see a play, we might want to think about how people who are using mobility supports are going to access that and anticipate how we can ensure that they are comfortable there. That might also mean acknowledging that not everyone on campus will have the same lens for inclusion and respect for students. And we kind of talk about how we can respond to those situations and how we can model that too. And another part of the support I receive as a student mentor is we do feedback forms. And so the staff will follow up with us about that. And I use feedback forms if I have any concerns or questions that I need responded to, and also to tell them what went well, and so that we can all acknowledge that together.
Awesome. That was so detailed. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to hear from Maggie and from Caitlin about their experience, kind of on the other side of what Hannah just very eloquently shared with us. So I want to hear, and I don't care who goes first, I let you two decide, but I do want to hear just kind of, these are some general talking points, but you can talk about other things too. But again, these are just some ideas. So you might want to share what kinds of social events you do participate in or you did while you were on campus. You might want to share about what's been easy about being socially integrated and maybe what challenges you've experienced. And then I think the really important part that I definitely want to hear from both of you is how have you grown socially? If you think about from where you were on day one of college to where you are now, how has your sort of social engagement just in all aspects grown? And then again, kind of talk about what Hannah shared about a little bit too, is what does your program do to help you or did help you while you were there, just to, you know, go to events and be more socially supported and things like that. So Maggie and Caitlin, do you need me to go over those again, or are you okay if I unshare my screen?
You can unshare your screen.
Awesome. All right, Caitlin, since you're already unmuted, do you want to go first?
Sure. You may have to repeat each question as we go.
Awesome. Do you want me to start with number one?
Yeah.
Okay. What types of social events did you participate in on campus?
Okay, so when I was at campus, I participated in bingo night at Clyde's, basketball games, soccer games, bonfire, world dance, etc. Which means a lot more.
I love it, Caitlin. All right, and how about actually let's ping pong back and forth. So Maggie, do you want to share
Okay.
what social events you did on campus or you currently do?
Yeah, I can share some fun stuff. What was the question again?
What types of social events do you participate in?
So I participate in adaptive rock climbing, and I also do other activities that may not involve just me, but other students as well.
That's awesome. Cool. Very sporty group we have here. All right, let's go back to Caitlin. What do you think when you were still a student, what do you think was easy about becoming socially engaged on campus and what wasn't so easy?
Okay, so the easiest thing, because so Kelly is a person that works in the OAS. She sends out on the email events for the week. When we get to go with friends and mentors. And there's nothing that is difficult for us.
That's so awesome, Caitlin. I'm glad to hear that. All right, Maggie, how about you? Have you experienced any challenges or anything that's been really easy in terms of socialization?
I would say like the hardest part is like trying to get one group together and walking by ourselves, because usually sometimes we have peer mentors that help us when it comes to getting from one thing to another, but sometimes we can't do that. And so sometimes it can be hard understanding what time the thing actual starts. So then
Mhm.
sometimes I have to use peer mentor resources to have them help me with the time and the location.
Yeah, but you use your supports, right? They're available to you to go to and ask questions, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that's pretty easy? Texting or calling or whatever, getting in contact with your peer mentors is pretty easy?
Yep.
You think so too,
Yeah,
Maggie?
it's pretty easy. Sometimes it's difficult because sometimes a person is not available to help me, but usually it is very good. So
Awesome. Love to hear it. All right, then let's maybe go in the other order. So now we'll start with Maggie for the next question. How
Okay.
have you seen yourself so far, Maggie, grow socially?
I would say that the easiest part is knowing everybody, because sometimes when I walk to places, some people will like say my name and say hi. Other people would ask me like how I'm doing personally and all that. And I would also will be able to tell them what I need, so that way when I come the next time they already know what I need to do and all that stuff. So
Love it. So you think one way you've grown maybe is in self-advocacy skills?
yeah, self-advocacy skills, yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that. That's a very important skill to have. Caitlin, how about you?
Okay. Gone to a lot more events with friends and mentors. Stayed out later than when I was in high school.
Love it. Very fun. All right. And then Maggie, you shared about this a little bit, but maybe you want to be more specific about what kinds of support the goal program provides you for social connections and things like that.
So with goal, everybody usually have one peer mentor, but depending on what their needs are and what their goals are, maybe they have one like another peer mentor. Um, for me, I usually have two peer mentors, just because sometimes my classes are really hard and sometimes I need help with homework support. But when it comes to social, everyone is usually there, so we don't really have to worry about calling people when we need them or anything like that, because they're usually there by the time I see them. So
Very cool. Awesome. And then Caitlin, do you want to share what that's like at UCCS? How do you get social support there?
Yes. So, and again, our person Kelly sends out emails and they assign mentors, and we have a meeting place and a pickup place.
Yeah, so you're kind of given a little bit more support in what peer mentor you're going with into what event. Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah. They
Awesome.
were to meet and stuff like that, and where to get picked up.
Super seamless. Love that. Hannah, is there anything else you want to add about what kind of support you might provide that you didn't already share?
Hmm. I don't think so. There was something on that first slide that you had mentioned that I didn't write down, but that I thought was super important. And so
Do you want me to go back? I can.
I love that. Yes,
Yeah.
please.
All right, let me share my screen again and then you can tell me where to stop.
Okay.
All right. Not on this slide.
No, that like first one that you did, that was like personal supports.
This one? Oh,
Thank you.
yeah, this slide?
Yes.
Awesome.
Where was it? Yeah, like schedule management. So kind of
Mhm.
like how Caitlin was saying, just the steps that you have to think about when you're going to an event, like what time you need to be there, but also what time that you're meeting up with other people because they might not get there at the same time. Especially like if you live on campus, you might be walking with a group of friends, but your friend that lives off campus might be getting dropped off by like a family member. And so thinking about what time do you need to leave to meet your friend there? Um, and yeah, things like that.
That's
Like
awesome.
how I was off campus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when Caitlin was talking about she needed to know where to be picked up and dropped off and all that kind of stuff, that's
And
because she
what
was not
time
an
to be
right. And
there.
what time? That's because you had to sort of tell you've said your Uber was your mom. So you had to tell
Yeah,
your Uber driver mom where she was taking you and when you needed to be there and all that kind of
she
stuff.
still is.
I love
Yes.
that.
She's
And
great.
an important oh, sorry, Caitlin, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I just said she's great.
Your mom?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome. But yeah, and an important part of that is like using your calendar on Outlook,
Yeah.
and maybe setting reminders for 15 minutes before you need to leave so that you know when to start packing your stuff up and to remind yourself every morning to check your calendar because things might change and there might be something you forgot about. So
Check your
keep track.
calendar and
Yep.
emails.
Yep.
Yeah, two very important skills. And part of what Hannah is talking about, right? Checking your calendar because things might change. Some of that kind of goes into what I shared earlier about kind of direct instruction on adaptability. So what happens when your schedule does change? Maybe you're looking forward to an event, but it had to be canceled for one reason or another. What is the appropriate response to that? And so these are all things that peer mentors might help students kind of process in an appropriate manner and model some of that emotional regulation and behavior management and things like that. Is that pretty accurate, Hannah?
Yeah, absolutely. And a big part of that is to just relate to that like disappointment that comes sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, "Oh, I was really looking forward to that too. I'm sorry. We'll look for upcoming events together that are similar."
For sure. Yeah.
You gotta
Thanks for-
work it out.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for chiming in on that, Hannah, and for having me go back to that because that was a very important addition. So I appreciate that.
Yes,
Yeah,
it was.
we're going back to it.
All right. So Maggie and Caitlin, here
Yes.
is the next slide. So I'm going to ask you to share how did you learn to navigate campus, right? So when you were a freshman and it was your first day of college and every building on campus maybe looked the same, who helped you figure out where you were going and all that kinds of stuff? I'm also going to have you maybe talk about how do you practice safety on campus? Sometimes we hear concerns from, particularly from parents that, you know, like what if my kid isn't safe on campus? And I would love to hear, do you feel safe on campus and what helps with that? And then just more generally, how have you seen yourself grow since college? Maybe it's not social, maybe in another way. And then you can just talk a little bit more about how you have become independent since going to college. So just like last time, I'll verbally cue you to those again, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And then Hannah, again at the end, just like last time, if there's anything else you want to chime in on, please do. All right, Maggie, I want you to share, how did you learn to find your way around campus?
Well, of course, being a freshman, it was really difficult. But as soon as I learned from my peer mentors and supporters how to navigate from one class to another by myself, it seems like I all got it in one big gigantic balloon. And so now I can go to place by myself. Sometimes I go with peer mentors um to other stuff, but not really classes because peer mentors are not usually there to support during class time because they also have classes that they have to go to as part of their career as well. And so sometimes you have to do stuff by yourself that other people are like, wow, I wish I learned how to do that. And so how I navigate it is by going through my schedule every morning, and knowing where the place and time is in my head so that way I can be there on time.
Lovely. All right, Caitlin, how do you feel like you learned how to find your way around campus?
So when I was a freshman, I was totally freaking out until then. Now, since we have mentors that can help us navigate like everything. But since when I was a senior, I had it all down and I knew where to go. I practiced using the shuttle and we did a scavenger hunt to know where places are.
So you took sometimes you walked from class to class, but sometimes you took the shuttle from class to class too?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you got to navigate a variety of aspects of making it around campus.
And now I know where everything is.
That's
and I
awesome.
can show people where places are,
Mhm.
where classes are too.
Very cool. And Caitlin, Maggie mentioned that she doesn't always have peer mentors go with her to classes. When you were in college, did you often have peer mentors go to classes with you?
Yes, I think UNC is different from UCCS.
I think some of
had peer mentors in each class.
Yeah, and so I wanted to sort of shine a light on that because some of the programs are different, but also every student just has different needs. And so some students might need a peer mentor in some classes, but not every class. Some might not need them in any classes. And so I just kind of wanted to bring that up just to sort of shine a light that all of our programs kind of have their own little nuances and individual kind of personalities in a way. And so since Maggie brought that up, I wanted to sort of shine a light on that as well.
Yeah.
All right, Caitlin, how do you feel that you are kept safe on campus?
When you are staying on campus, you walk together when it's dark out. Now that wasn't really my case, but if you live in the lookout, you walk back from an event together.
Love it. Safety in numbers. How about you, Maggie?
I want to say that there's usually police around campus. Not a lot of people know about that, but at UNC we have a police department, and there's usually 1 or 2 or 3 police officers there each day and each night to help out. So mostly if I feel a little bit nervous, I can always just call the contact police officers and they're usually there to help out, but that never has happened to me, thank goodness. And I walk in big numbers as well. I have a rule of thumb, and it's probably same for everybody on campus, to not walk alone at night, because if you walk alone at night, there's probably not going to be a good sign. So you always want to make sure to be with another big group of people that are there to help you out when you need them. So.
And I've heard you both share this sort of tip to walk in groups when it's dark out. Is that something that you just kind of do on your own, or is that something that was shared with you by program staff or peer mentors?
It was shared from peer mentors and our program staff. And we also have our police on our campus too. There's a number that you can call if you need something.
Awesome. How about you, Maggie? Do you feel like that's something that you just figure it out on your own, or does someone give you that advice?
A police officer came to one of my classes and they talked about how to be safe on campus. And the most important piece that they shared is to always stay in big numbers at night. Just because it's going to be easier for you to feel more safe on campus than if you walked by yourself, from the dining hall to your dorm room.
Yeah.
Cool. And one of the cool things that you didn't share, Maggie, but I'll share it for you. Maggie got to take a super cool self-defense class. So I think Maggie feels really safe on campus, right?
That's cool.
Yeah, just make sure to be safe on campus and not do anything crazy, because otherwise you might have a police officer stop you.
All right, Maggie, Caitlin, I can't remember what order it is, so one of you maybe just volunteer to go first. But the next question
I'll
is,
go.
okay, awesome. Thanks, Caitlin. Just generally, if when you look back from day one, freshman Caitlin, to today, how do you think you have grown?
Alright, well, freshman Caitlin didn't know anything, so, but now, just being more independent and doing things on my own.
Love it. And
Yeah,
the really cool thing that I want to sort of share for you, Caitlin, if that's okay,
yeah,
is that sometimes we hear a question from parents or from teachers or sometimes from students themselves about, is it possible to learn independent skills if you don't live on campus? And I want
Yeah.
to point out that you lived at home all throughout college and you still think the biggest way you grew was in your independence. Is that what you just said?
yeah.
That's awesome. So I just want to call that out and make that really clear. It's still possible to gain independent skills without living on
Yeah.
campus. Yeah. Do you maybe want to share some specific ways that you've become independent?
Oh.
I know I put you on the spot, so you don't have to answer that.
I don't know.
That's okay. Maybe we'll go to Maggie. So Maggie, how do you think you have grown since college started?
I'm learning more about my disability and how my learning styles have helped me as myself, and advocating for myself. It's just that sometimes I forget like what disability I have and how to use that in classes, because if the peer mentors don't know, but I used to have classes that are based on my learning about my disability, and so I have to write papers about my disability. I have to do research on my disability just because it makes the professors and the peer mentors and I more interested. And so it gets me really interested if they're like, you can do an assignment based on your disability. And so that's what I've been doing in my most classes.
I love that.
I want to ask something.
Go for it.
I learned how to advocate for myself.
That's something that I think I hear the most often from students when I ask, how did you grow in college? Almost every
Advocating.
student says two things. I'm more independent and I can self-advocate. Not that they couldn't do either of those things before college, but just that the skills have grown exponentially since college started. Would you say that's true for you, Caitlin?
Yes.
And you too, Maggie?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
For sure. Love that. And
Always.
Hannah, I think this is a good time to maybe hear from you as well. Are there any other ways that you have seen some of your mentees, the way that they've grown, or maybe like consistent ways that you see many students grow?
Absolutely. Caitlin and Maggie, I love how you mentioned that your self-advocacy skills have grown. Um, that's amazing. I've definitely seen the students I work with become self-advocates as well. And one student, Grace, she went to DC this year
Yeah.
and yeah, spoke about inclusive higher ed. And so I've seen her skills grow with that too. And them being able to tell mentors what they need. Like one student that I've gotten to work with throughout these 3 years, we started college at the same time. She has this semester, she has been so vocal about what she needs while we're working together. So if we're trying a strategy and it's not working, she'll tell me that. Um, which I so appreciate as a mentor. And she'll also tell me what she needs. So when she needs a break, she'll let me know. Yeah, I love to see that, and I love to see students be able to identify what what they need to be successful, whether that be long term or in the moment.
That's awesome. I love that. That's so heartwarming for me to hear. All right. And then Maggie and Caitlin, you both already shared about this too, but if there's anything else you want to share about just how college has helped you become independent in any specific ways or any specific skills you think that you've gained in independence?
Well, I would say, for me, I think like advocating for professors and peer mentors, because at high school, usually the peer mentors and the professors talk and they advocate for the students. But I've been learning how to advocate for myself. So that way I don't need a peer mentor there to always count on me to advocate. And so it's been really, really good for me to say, hey, can we narrow the thing down a little bit? Or hey, I I write a paper but maybe use less words than other people might use? So like for example, like instead of doing like a 10-page paper, which hopefully no one has to do that. But instead of doing 10-page, I do 3 or 4 pages, or 1 or 2, depending on who the professor is and what they accept and all that stuff. So
Yeah. So you think you've grown in your maybe academic advocacy? And I really liked what you said, sort of comparing high school to college, and tell me if I'm sort of summarizing you incorrectly. But what I heard you say is that in high school, maybe people speak for you and they sort of say, this is what Maggie needs. And now in college, you're expected to say, this is what I need, and I need to say that on my own. Is that kind of what you mean?
yeah, because at college, no one is keeping eye on you. You are the only one that can advocate for yourself. And so like in high school, like you said before, is like peer mentors and teachers and special education teachers would advocate for the students. But now since it's college time, it's time for you to advocate for yourself and try new things. And even though you maybe not want to do it, you have to do it because no one will know how to help you unless if you ask for help or if you tell them what you need.
Yeah,
Wow, man.
that was very well said, Maggie. Caitlin, do you have anything to add to that about how college helped you gain independent skills?
Wow. Okay. Hmm. Well, kind of what Maggie said. Instead of doing a 10-page paper or a 5-page paper, I just do a PowerPoint instead.
Yeah, so do you think you got maybe more comfortable asking for some of those academic modifications?
Yes.
Yeah, that's really important. I love that. All right, with that, I'm going to share my screen again. I have a thumbs up if it worked.
Yes.
Perfect.
Oh,
Thank
I
you.
just said yes.
That's okay. There's only one question left for you all. And for this, because I think it's going to be short, I'm not going to stop sharing my screen. But I would just love to hear from you about just sort of like your last, let's close this out with a bang. What do you think is your best piece of advice you could have for a student with an intellectual disability who is interested in college, and then kind of specifically tailoring that advice to the social aspect of college? So what's your best social advice for someone who wants to go to college? Does that question make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so maybe let's go in a different order this time. So Hannah, I'd love to start with you this time.
Yeah. I would like for students to know that they are capable of reaching any goal that they want and experiencing what they would like to experience.
Awesome. Thank you, Hannah. Maggie, how about you? What's your biggest piece of advice?
My biggest piece of advice is to stay on top of your homework
Mhm.
and try to like surprise your peer mentor. So maybe they walk with you or they ask you, did you do your homework? And you can say, I did it all by myself. So that way they know that you are more independent than you think you are. And so they trust you to do homework. So that way they don't need to come to you every time you meet because maybe like it's really important to advocate, but also create some social independence and homework independence as well. Because maybe you're stuck on a homework assignment, but you gotta try it by yourself before you have anyone help you.
Mm. That's important advice. So try things on your own before you ask for help, maybe.
Yeah.
That's awesome advice. Thanks, Maggie. All right, Caitlin, how about you? What's your last piece of advice?
Do your best.
Short and sweet. I love it.
And then I had something else
Yeah.
before this slide.
Of course.
You said the question was, in general, how did college help you prepare to be more independent?
Mhm.
I said, be on time, how to use your calendar, how to get to your classes, get your homework done on time, and turn in all of your assignments.
Love it. Thanks, Caitlin. Thanks for going back to that. Those are really strong ways you grew in independence. I love that.
And do your best.
So
And have
important.
fun.
Have fun. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Best piece of advice for any situation. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, and then just to kind of close us out again, this is our last webinar of our fall series, so stay tuned for our spring webinar schedule. That'll be out either later in December or very early in January. But these are just some other, links to maybe help get you by in the meantime. And we're always happy to help answer questions and direct you and guide you and things like that. So again, feel free to email me, call me, text me, whatever you need. And then lastly, this slide is more geared specifically to national resources that can help you sort of prepare students more for the social realm of college. So the first one is it's just kind of a general preparation website. The website's gointocollege.com, .net maybe. The link is there, and it is sort of to help just prepare students in all aspects, but there is a social piece in that as well. That middle one is looking at different college programs across the country that serve students with intellectual disabilities. There are over 300. So I shared the 6 in Colorado, but there are many, many, many more. And like I've kind of mentioned throughout, every program kind of has their own personality, their own kind of thing that they do. So if you think that there's maybe a social need that your student has, you can definitely check out that website and find more. And then the last thing, it's a document, a PDF on how to facilitate social connections on campus. It's written from people at a national resource hub called Think College, which is kind of a big body that does a lot of research and lots of different things regarding inclusive higher education. And so this is kind of their one-stop shop for how to help build social connections on campus. And it is geared towards a college campus, but almost everything on there can be taken and adapted to a middle school or a high school campus as well. So I definitely recommend taking a look at that. And with that, would love if you could complete the survey on our webinar, just so that we can make sure we're meeting everybody's needs as we roll into the spring session. If anyone has any other questions for our panelists, you can feel free to send them my way, and I will send them the panelists' way, and we will make sure you get the answers to those questions. So thank you, everyone.